another report that I found a little bit bizarre. The Shaedon Sharpe report definitely caught me by surprise in terms of, look, when did you learn initially that Shaedon Sharpe could be eligible for the NBA draft?
I'm not trying to be a hardo here, but months ago.
No, I know, yeah.
Because it was, how do I put this? It was like the worst kept and best kept secret down there. Like all the media people kind of knew. Nobody wanted to speak up and really put it on record or do anything like that. But like those rumblings were there just based on the timeline of his quote unquote graduation and age and him. There's not a lot of guys who go to school early with the intention of then staying. So when he said he was enrolling in January, people started grumbling behind the scenes saying, maybe this is a thing for him to try to get eligible to be passed through. So I was taken aback at kind of the timing of when it rolled out, but not necessarily the announcement.
Yeah. So I'd kind of been told that this could be a thing in December.
Right.
And I've kind of not ranked Shaedon Sharpe for the reason that he has said like he's going to Kentucky for the second year. Kyle Tucker, in the story that I wrote with Kyle Tucker, he talked to Shaedon Sharpe's mom, and Shaedon Sharpe's mom said, "Hey, our plan is to," or asked a very pointed question about staying in Kentucky for a second season, and she said, "Yep, that's the plan."
Right.
So that's still his plan. Additionally, I've gotten enough like questions from NBA scouts and like executives and people about what the timeline actually is in terms of his graduation. Kyle, in the story that we wrote, talked to Kyle Weaver, who was his coach in Arizona this past year. Kyle Weaver told Kyle Tucker that the Shaedon finished his classes in the summer.
High school classes,
finished
right?
His high school classes in the summer.
So it's technically a post grad playing this last season at Dream City to start the year, because he played the season before he enrolled at Kentucky. He started and played a few games.
So did he graduate? Was he a post grad? Like, is that
could
like
be.
how he was designated?
I don't know. I'm not a transcript master, but he could be. There's a lot of guys that do that, that do graduate and play their fifth year, and you don't have to technically finish that year of quote unquote school because you have your diploma. So the season ends and then you go home or you enroll in college or whatever that may be. So there is some murkiness about his kind of quote timeline of eligibility too. It's tough because this is how I look at it with the announcement that he made, right? And we've kind of been all over the place on draft boards and where to place him. Just how hesitant are you even to put him anywhere, like anywhere in the top 10? Because somebody tweeted this. I think it was Stephen Gillespie. I can't remember, but he kind of said, like, if we just went off numbers alone, what would Jaden Hardy have been prior to this season? We probably would have put him fifth, right? But it's true because it's hard for Shaedon, who a year and a half ago, this was an outside the top 100 kid. All right. And he's gotten a lot better. He put in a ton of work. He started Sunrise Christian. He transferred to Dream City. He had this enormous blow up last season. He was great on the UIBL. It was the COVID year, so not a lot of people saw him. And then when scouts and people actually got back in the gym, it was like, holy smokes, like this is a thing. Because he has a great body, he has a great frame, he gets up and down the court, he can fly off the ground, he has the runway to do it. And then he started shooting it a lot better, like sidestep threes, step back threes, pulling up in transition. So it does pass the initial look test, but I'm not ready to say if he comes out and doesn't play games, he's going to be top 5 pick, because not even just Jaden Hardy. Think the guys from last draft that we had in the top 5 in the preseason before we saw him play a college game. BJ Boston, Jalen Johnson, Zaire Williams. Those guys have all taken kind of unconditional pass, and some of them have already figured it out. But then we saw him play a few college games. It wasn't the same guy we saw in high school, right? So Shaedon Sharpe could be that good. I really hope anyway, from like a scout's perspective, that he plays in games, whether it's this year or next year, because I'm all for kids, if they want to come out of high school, they should have that ability to do it. But as an evaluator, it's a lot easier for me to say how he's going to project if he plays at that next level before the NBA. Unless you're a total freak show who's like, 6'9", LeBron James, like Kevin Garnett, yeah, it's going to work. But for the majority of the rest of the guys who could still be the highest level superstars, I don't want to sign off on it until I see a little bit more.
Yeah. And before we get into the scouting, because I have a take on the whole Jaden Hardy thing.
Yeah, I got a feel.
Yeah. The eligibility thing, the report from John Gavoni, who, look, I'm sure John has some sort of inclination here that Shaedon Sharpe is going to be eligible, because John's really good at this, right? Like I don't,
yeah.
I certainly don't mean to cast shots at John when I say this, but there is a difference in terms of like reporting Shaedon Sharpe is eligible for the 2022 draft and what John actually reported, which is Shaedon Sharpe can apply for the 2022 NBA draft. And the reason for that designation is that Shaedon Sharpe has not applied for the NBA draft, and the NBA itself does not actually look into these transcripts, into draft eligibility from players with these like murky questions regarding, their situations until a player actually applies for the draft. Because, again, Shaedon Sharpe, his mom literally told Kyle Tucker that the plan is still to go to Kentucky next year, right?
Yeah.
So there's not really a reason for the NBA to look into this yet, right?
Not yet.
If he applies, the NBA will look into it, and there will be a robust, figuring out of the transcript situation of everything, right?
Right.
In terms of his scouting, I cannot see a world where he gets out of the top 10. I just can't. Like, look, he might not go in the top 5. I cannot see a world where if he does not play a minute of basketball at Kentucky, that he doesn't go in the top 10.
And the crazy part about it is for people that are around him and know him, if you get him, and his agents will be smart. I have no idea whose reputation is. They'll get him in 1-0 workouts, and he'll fly into cities and work out. And he's going to test like a freak. Like, he's going to jump out of the building. He's going to shoot it really well in an empty gym. I had somebody ask me, how do you look in warm-ups for against Auburn? I don't like great. I don't know. How do you and I look in warm-ups? So, like, we look fantastic, right? Nobody's guarding us. You can go up, do some crazy dunks, do step throughs. He'll hit some weird threes. He's got a great body. He's going to be in even better shape when he's working out there. So I get your reasoning of he's not getting outside the top 10. But if I'm in the top 10 as an NBA team, like, I need production for the most part. I kind of need some help. If I'm a general manager, like, I'm just scared for a guy who hasn't played a college game to draft him. Whereas overseas guys, they play higher levels of A and B divisions. College guys play the best of the best. G League Ignite, they're playing against pros. Guys are filtering in and out if you're good enough, bad enough. But if Shaedon Sharpe doesn't play, I get he'll be outside the top 10. I don't say buyer beware, but just do your research. It's a long process. He's been this tier of talent for not that long. Everyone says he's a worker. I get the physical tools. I get the self-creation. It's the type of archetype that NBA guys search for. But it's
correct.
It's not an exact thing. It's not an exact thing where he's in, and I had like 5 or 6 people text me, right, where do you have him on your board? I don't know. Like, I don't even know where to slot him in right now.
So here's what I would say to that. Part of why he is so highly thought of is in regard to the scouting. He is exactly what evaluators are looking for the NBA. He is 6'6". He has long arms. He's explosive as hell. And particularly, he can get to his pull-up game at a very high level. I believe that I can't pull up the numbers for whatever reason, because the Athletic website is being a bit funky for me right now. Okay. But he, I believe, led Peach Jam in pull-up scoring and did so on very high level efficiency in terms of pull-up.
And he was over 40% from 3. He was like 43% or something like that during the Peach Jam. Again, a small sample, but it shows kind of where he was as a kid who wasn't playing. Has a breakout season, the grind session out in Arizona with Dream City, gets on the UIBL and backs up all the other stuff. So like there is like signs of that trajectory that he's on.
And on top of that, he also finished at an elite level. Like, he finished at the basket in half court settings at the same level Kyle Filipowski did, who is going to Duke as a 6'11" center who is immensely skilled. Pennie knows Kyle Filipowski's game well, having been in the Boston, New England area, let's say.
Yeah, seen him plenty of times live.
Right. And Kyle Filipowski, very, very gifted high school basketball center.
Yeah,
he's also a good defender. Like Shaedon Sharpe is a good on-ball defender when he's engaged. He plays hard. I have no fucking idea what he's going to look like off the ball. Like, let's just be real about it. We just don't know because he's not been asked to do that. But all of these tools are what NBA teams look for. High-level pull-up shooting, which is something that Jaden Hardy has never been great at in terms of efficiency. He's always gotten to the shots well, but he's never knocked them down at a level that goes beyond volume scorer.
Yes.
Jaden Hardy has never defended like Shaedon Sharpe defends. Correct?
No.
And can't finish at the level Shaedon Sharpe does. Like, I think Shaedon Sharpe is a drastically better prospect than Jaden Hardy. But again, I'm someone who had Jaden Hardy at like 10 coming into the year.
But
so
that's
like
the point.
I was
but that's the point though. Like he would be 10th, right? Maybe Shaedon Sharpe would have been 5th. Hardy would be 10th. But then they played, and now Hardy, I think for us, and people could yell at us, more like the 20-ish range. Like he went down 10 spots.
Yeah.
So if Sharpe is that, I don't know if it's going to be as inefficient as Jaden Hardy has been, but if he plays, and like there was a time in the Kentucky-Auburn game where Ty Washington is out, Severe Wheeler gets destroyed by a screen, and you wonder, I was waiting for Kyle Party to look down the end of the bench, give the Shaedon Sharpe signal, pull off the sweats, and he's in. But we didn't have that. We didn't have that luxury. So like we still just don't know.
But there's just no way. Because like here's the other thing.
There should be no way. But he was in street. He was not in street clothes. He was in Kentucky warm up. So he might have done the thing where he takes off the warm up and he had like a t-shirt on and not his jersey yet. But he looked the part. I will give him that.
So like here's the other thing. Kyle Tucker, his sources around Kentucky, talked to the sources around Kentucky. Prior to that game, Shaedon Sharpe had not gone through like a full speed practice from what we gathered.
Yep.
Had largely just done walkthroughs, was getting acclimated to Lexington, was getting acclimated to college, everything like that. It would have been like blatantly irresponsible to put Shaedon Sharpe in that game.
I don't even
in Auburn.
I don't even think that's the term. It was a loony bin. It was a madhouse on steroids. I tweeted about it. It was a party disguised an SC basketball game. If that was your first taste of college basketball, I don't care what level of prospect you are. I don't care where you are as draft boards. That was intimidating, man. It was. I was a fan and I was intimidated. Like I can't imagine being on the floor and actually playing.
No, absolutely not. So there was just no way he was going to put him in there. What this comes down to for me is if Shaedon Sharpe is going to go to the 2022 NBA draft, there's no way he should play. There's just no way. There's no
agree. No benefit playing
to him playing. We've seen this with James Wiseman. We've seen it with other players like this. Anthony Simons went in the first round. Thon Maker went top 10. Like scouts are willing to let these guys not play and take the gamble. On top of that, here is the biggest, if he is, before we get to that, if he is planning on going back to Kentucky for next year, I think it would be valuable for him to play. Like get acclimated to college.
Yeah.
Know, figure out everything, right? Like it'd be really good. So here's the thing. The 2022 NBA draft. I'm going to read you names.
Oh boy.
Would you take Shaedon Sharpe?
I'm always bad at this. I think we did this last time post-tournament. Johnny Juzang, I ended up taking him 25th. So go ahead, fire.
Would you take Shaedon Sharpe or Patrick Baldwin?
Pass.
It's not. That's not a hard question.
You want me to say Shaedon Sharpe? I get it. Shaedon Sharpe. Okay. I'm higher on Ball than most. I still have him like 10th or 11th, but Shaedon Sharpe. So that's probably your answer. Like you don't have to say another name. So he's going 9th. At worst for me.
Would you take Kendall Brown or Shaedon Sharpe?
No, I take Shaedon Sharpe.
Yep. Would you take Jalen Duren or Shaedon Sharpe?
I take Shaedon Sharpe. Yeah, not a huge Duren.
Would you take Ty Washington or Shaedon Sharpe?
You know that answer. Shaedon Sharpe.
Yeah, I do. Would you take Blake Wesley or Shaedon Sharpe?
I think I still go. As much as I've waved the Blake Wesley flag and driven that train, I think I would go Shaedon Sharpe.
Right. Would you take AJ Griffin or Shaedon Sharpe?
Shaedon Sharpe. But you're listing for me. You're listing like 10. You're listing like 10 through 16 for me.
Right. So
the one is like would I take like Keegan Murray or Shaedon Sharpe? That's
right.
the one where it's
that's
like,
where I was
all
getting
right,
next.
all right.
Would you take
like,
Ben Mathurin or Shaedon Sharpe?
Yeah, probably Shaedon Sharpe. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
This
because
is like you're painting me in a corner. Like there's no way for me to get out of this thing. I get it. I understand, but it doesn't mean I can't be like scared out of my mind.
Oh,
right?
I am too.
Like Ben Mathurin. We got a couple seasons of tape. I don't know if he can self-create. I have no idea. He's great coming off screens. Right. I don't know if he can do anything in the mid-range. No clue. But we've got like 60 games plus NBA Global Academy plus high school stuff. Shaedon Sharpe, we have Dream City Christian tape. We have EYBL. We have Midwest Mania with Made Hoop. It's not the same. It's not the same barometer. Like if he does this in the SEC and comes out with like Ochai Agbaji had a great game last night. And we've kind of called this all year since the Champions Classic, whatever. But it's like you had the progression. You saw the good, the bad, and you saw where this is going. If Shaedon Sharpe comes out next year and has 3 games where he's absolutely dominant, we say, yeah, great. We're going to slot him 5th. There's Victor Wembanyama. There's Scoot Henderson. There's the Thompsons. There's him. Fine. No problem doing that. But it's really, really like shakes me to my core that I'm going to take a kid 5th who I just don't even know how it works in the structure of a college game or a G League game right here, right now.
I totally get that. I'm with you. I could not agree with you more. It is an enormous risk. It's an enormous like high variance situation. Here's the thing. If Ben Mathurin hits, what do we think Ben Mathurin is?
Right.
Like a top 75 player in the league?
Yeah, if Shaedon Sharpe hits, he's going to be an all-star. That's the thing. But does he hit? I don't know. All right, I'm going to throw another one at you. If he didn't play in college, where does Emoni Bates get drafted? He didn't play at Memphis. If he was draft eligible.
Oh.
He's not getting out of top 7. There's no way. No way.
If he wouldn't have played at Memphis.
Let's just say Emoni was in this situation, right? He didn't play the season at all at Memphis. He was just draft eligible. He's on the bench going to draft. I don't think he gets outside of 7. If you had to draft him right now, you'd probably be talking late first round at best. And I'm trying to be fair here because he struggled, right? And then he played basketball and in a good league and saw different defenses and coverages, and that's why I'm hesitant. Like this guy was supposed to be everything. He could still get there, but even like a lot of media people are tempering expectations now, saying we gave him too much. He's got to build back up. He still has his strong suits. So that's why like I put Shaedon Sharpe in that bucket, not because I think they're the same skill wise or that was what was thought of them, but there needs to be proof. There needs to be tape. He could be awesome. He could be an all-star. He could not be a guy that starts. Who knows? It's the great unknown, as we call it.
So like I get the point with Emoni, but you're also talking to someone who like 2 years ago did a podcast with our good friend Brian Snow, who now works at Penn State, obviously. And shout out Brian Snow. But like I laid out all of my concerns, with Emoni Bates then.
That was the podcast before I came on. I was on like an elliptical machine, like listening to it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting into here. This guy is, though I did agree with you. I was like, this is a little counterculture to the basketball world that's going outside around me.
So like from a tools perspective, the problem was just from a tools perspective with Emoni, right? Like great pull-up shooter, but he's 6'9" with a 6'9" wingspan. And that's always been the case, right? And he's exceptionally skinny and doesn't have a great frame. Shaedon Sharpe doesn't really have those physical limitations that Emoni Bates does, which I think is going to make it even easier to sell to NBA teams that this could work, I guess. That's kind of just where I'm at on this. Like, I think I think Shaedon Sharpe is a different situation than like Hamidou Diallo, than Emoni Bates, than Jaden Hardy, certainly. Look, like I've just never gotten that totally, I guess. So like it's hard for me to have that conversation. I know that there are people who really like Jaden Hardy and liked him coming into the year. I just like wasn't totally there. But we'll see. We'll see with Shaedon Sharpe. I will be fascinated to see if Kentucky plays him. It certainly seems like that language is softening. I think that John Calipari may have said yesterday, like if he's ready and I feel like he's ready, I'll put him in.
Yeah, and I give credit to Coach Calipari, too, because he said post-game, because that was one of the first questions that reporters asked, because Kentucky played a really good first half. They're taking care of the ball. They were slowing down Auburn well. They hit some injuries. You need some guards. They didn't have a lot of creators. Shaedon Sharpe creates, and Coach Calipari said he wasn't ready. I promised it to his family. I promised it to him, the people around him. I wasn't going to put him in if he wasn't ready. If we have to lose on the road a game against a team that's now number one in the country, so be it. But his progression is more important to me than winning a single game.
Yeah.